So with that, I'd like to now introduce Greg Cassidy. Greg is going to start a build tonight, and I think it's pretty cool. It's a very cool structure. And with that, I think I'll just throw it over to you. Greg, go for it.
All right, let me get my presentation up, and I think we're ready to go. We're going to be starting week one of building Praetor's products from rail scale models. Now, what we'll be doing tonight is reviewing the tools and supplies. We'll be going over the build schedule. We'll look at the kit contents, and I'll show you how to distress, brace, and stain the walls and add the corner trim. I went over the tools and supplies that we'll be using in the introduction. I'll do them real quick here. We'll be using some clamps and 1, 2, 3 blocks, a variety of sanding sticks. I find a pencil useful. A couple of different hobby knives are what I use, plus some tweezers and clippers. A square or some kind of ruler will be useful, and I will be using a saw. I use coffee lids for my palettes for both my glue and my paint, and the most important tool, in my opinion, is a toothpick. As far as supplies, I'll be using canopy glue and tacky glue and liquid PSA. You can also use some other wood glues, such as Titebond or something. A couple of different super glues. I will be using a thin plastic glue. It turned out not to use any goo or any plastic cement. And as far as paints and stains, I'll be using some craft paints and hobby paints. I end up using a distress crayon. It's not needed. I always have a supply of strip wood handy in various sizes in case you want to make modifications or have to make repairs. And I used a number of stains, but I realized that in showing the Hunter line stain, we can't get past the fact that we've all lost our friend Rick Hunter a couple days ago. And if you haven't seen the postings, you can give a thought to his wife, Maureen, and his family. And hopefully Clark will be here to go into more detail later. Now, our schedule is going to be this week, as I've gone over. Week 2 will be assembling and painting the walls and painting the windows and doors. Week 3 will be installing window glass and the windows and doors into the building and assembling the roof cards. Week 4 we'll be doing rafter tails. We'll paint and install the metal roofing and prepare and put the rolled roofing in place. And for week 5, we'll be preparing and installing roof details and the awning, lights, and signs, and then paint and install buildings on the base. And obviously, you're free to deviate from this schedule. This is just how I'm going to be going through it. Now, my friend JJ Justice was able to supply me with an actual photograph of the building that Jeff Grove based this on. On his original kit, when he was putting out under Carolina Craftsman Kits, he had a photo of just the front portion of the building here, but this shows the entire building. And this was on Route 36 in North Carolina. And my hat is off to you if you can make it look as nicely distressed as the original building really is. So here are what comes in the kits. They're very nicely packaged. This is the HO kit, as I said, that we're going to be working on. And you have a few different bags that have different items in them and the strip wood and the directions. And once we open those up, you'll find here that we have the corrugated roofing and the roof cards. These are the Tishy windows and doors, some other small details, sections of strip wood. You have your laser cut walls along with the roof supports. This is your rolled or tar roofing and another laser cut card that has some doors and vents on it. You also get 6 pages of very nice instructions that include color photographs and very good directions on how to put them together. If you just follow the directions, you'll come up with a beautifully built kit. Steve also includes a couple of other sheets, which includes an isometric drawing showing how the pieces will be going together, as well as a parts list showing everything that should be in your kit. And Bill Stimson is working on the N-scale version of this, and he sent me photos of what's in that kit. And for the most part, it's the same thing. They're just a lot smaller. The only variation is the Tichy windows. There isn't quite as big a selection in N scale. So Steve has substituted a couple of the windows and made allowance for that in the laser cutting. Now, the first thing that I do when I unpack a kit that has clapboard or some type of siding that has an up and a down is I'll mark the top of all of the walls where I think it's important. Obviously, your gable end walls, it's pretty obvious what the top is. And even walls with doors, you can figure it out. But I still go ahead and mark them all just to make sure I don't get one upside down, and I won't tell you why I do that. One of the first things I do is sand the edges of my laser cutting cut walls just to make sure they're nice and square. And in this case, there was hardly any needed, but it's so that you have a nice square edge. And I'm not talking about the length of it. I'm just talking about making sure there isn't any bevel or kerf or anything. And you could do the same thing with a sanding stick or a block with sandpaper on it, but you just want to make sure all of the edges are nice and square. Now, you're free to deviate from anything that I'm doing here or from the instructions. I made very few changes because I wanted it to look like the building that was on the box of the kit. But this is one change that I made, and I just moved the door from the right-hand side of the covered entrance over to the left-hand side. And in order to do that, I had to cut off the little tab and slot that was part of the construction. And so I glued the tab into this area. Now, if I was just going to be staining this, I wouldn't be able to do that because you couldn't hide it. And I just cut this piece out of some scribe siding. But in my case, this is going to be painted. And by filling that in, I'm going to be able to hide it so you won't see it. Another thing that you don't need to do is spend time working on areas that won't be seen. If you're going to distress some of the wood like I'm going to show you, this whole area here is covered by the house that is up against the side. So you don't need to work in this area. It's just effort that won't be seen. And the same goes for any staining or painting that you might be doing. Nail holes is the big debate that we always have in most every scale. I don't usually do them, but sometimes I do. And when I do, I don't like using those Ponce wheels that come from a hobby shop or a craft store. Those make holes that are way too big. What I have is a little device here that makes very tiny holes, and you can see them here. Now, if we stained this siding, you can still see them, but just barely. If we paint it, they're almost always going to completely disappear, which is what nail holes should do. And I only do them because I can make them this small. And everybody asks me what that tool is. So here is what it is. It's made by RB Productions. They're in Great Britain, and it's called the Rivet R. And you can find these from a number of different sites on eBay. Different importers have carried them. Sometimes they come, sometimes they go. But this is a tool that goes into a hobby knife, and it comes with one wheel, and then these are additional wheels that I got. Now, the first thing I did was cut the bracing for all of my walls, and you can follow the instructions for this. The bracing is a 1/8 inch wood, and this is just to make sure that you have all your pieces cut when you're ready to glue them in place. And the instructions do a good job of showing you where you need to put the bracing. You'll see that there's some on the bottom and on the tops as well, and that isn't so much to brace the wood as to give you an area to glue when you're gluing it to the base or gluing the roof on. Now, for distressing the clapboard, obviously, this is something you can decide if you want to do or don't want to do. What I do is I'll just put a little slice and then bend up one corner of the clapboard as if that's where the clapboard was joined and part of it warped or got wet underneath. There are various ways of doing this, and you can find a number of tutorials on YouTube about how to do this. This is how I've done mine. Now, one of the things I like that Steve does to his kits, a number of laser cut walls that you get, the side wall will come right up to the corner of the gable wall. And what happens then is you have this 1/8 inch overhang that won't work when you're trying to put your roofing down flat. And what I do to get around that is I'll sand this. But Steve makes it so you don't have to go through that work. His sidewall is 1/8 of an inch lower than the gable wall, so that the roofing will lay flat and you don't have to do anything. And that little area there gets covered when you put the roof on, so you're never going to see it. And that just saves a little bit of work. So the next thing I did was glue in place all my bracing. And the easiest way I find to do it is just, I use a 1, 2, 3 block. I put a little bit of glue on the piece of bracing, put it down, and then push it up against the block. And that way it's right on the very edge. And I'll tend to glue the bracing on the edge of the end walls. And that gives you something to glue the sidewalls to. Once you have all of your bracing glued in place, you can set it aside, just let those dry. And once you're done with that, then you can start staining the walls. There's a couple different ways of approaching how you're going to prepare your walls. One thing that I tend to do is I'll stain it first and then put the paint over that. Sometimes I'll paint it first and then put the stain over the paint, and other times I'll just paint it or just stain it. You can decide how you want to handle your finish, depending on if you want it painted or stained or both. But by staining it first, then when I paint over it, which you'll see in part 2, some of the stain shows through and it makes it look like the paint is a little older and a little faded. So once you're done staining all of your walls, put them aside and let them dry. And while they're drying, it's time to turn to the corner trim. And this is the 1/16 inch. I like to run all of my trim through some steel wool. It just tends to get off a lot of the fuzzies. And I find that usually the smaller the strip wood is, the better this does at getting off fuzzies. And then I'll go ahead and stain my corner trim. In this case, my corner trim and my walls are going to be the same color. Obviously, if you're going to be doing something where your walls are one color and the trim is a different color, you may or may not want to stain them. I'll just dip it into my bottle, put it aside, let it dry, and I'll keep doing that. And by the time I'm done with the fourth one, I can take the first one, turn it around, and dip the other end in. Before I did anything else, I went ahead and assembled this little entryway because I wasn't staining it, because it being covered, it was going to be better protected. So while it'll be painted the same color, it won't kind of have the distressed look that the siding does. Then I went ahead and rough cut all of the trim that I was going to glue on. And as I said, I'll glue this onto the gable end walls, and that gives you a nice little corner where you can set the sidewalls into. Now, if you're going to be having your walls a different color than your trim, you'll need to do your painting before you glue your corner trim in. And there, you can either paint the walls before you put the building together and then glue on your trim, or you can build your building, paint it, and then glue on the trim if it's going to be a different color. In my case, since it was going to be the same color, I just went ahead and glued it on. And one thing that I'll do, I'll just put canopy glue along the edge of the trim. Then I'll turn them both over and press them together. You want to make sure that your corner trim is pushed flush with the outside of the wall. That gives you this nice little L here that you can snuggle your sidewalls in, and it'll fit nice and flush and give you a strong bond. Now, after you've glued your corner trim in place and it's dry, you want to go ahead and cut or sand the edges of them so that they're flush. But there's one place on this kit that you don't want to do that, and that's the corner of the small house that's facing the main building. And that's because this wing wall has a little cutout for it right here. And if you were to cut that flush, you'll have a little opening here. So watch for that. And that gets me to dry fitting. And this is where you want to look at what you're building, and especially if it's a little more involved, such as this kit is, make sure that you look ahead at all of your things, like the fact that this corner trim doesn't get trimmed like the rest of them do. And this also gives me a chance to look for areas of interest. And for me, the area of interest was this right here, where you have the covered opening and you have the area that the garage door is going to have to fit into. Plus, all of this area is going to have trim around it. So you want to make sure that you get all of that right when you do it. You want to make sure the space here is correct for the garage door and that you have the trim in the right places. So I went ahead and glued my edge trim onto these two pieces. You can make this two pieces here because you have the covered entryway and the instructions show that, but I decided to make mine one just out of simplicity. And then I put another piece of edge trim on the covered area that's going to go in there. And again, having it just dry fit together, this is how it comes out. And I made sure when I was doing this, that this is the correct size for my garage door. So that's one of those areas of interest that dry fitting lets you look at and make sure you don't have any issues that you're unprepared for. So that's it for what we've done this week. Next week, we'll be assembling and painting our walls, painting the windows and doors, and we'll look at a couple of interior options. And I want to thank you for joining along.
Thank you very much, Greg. That was great. It's a couple of great tips there.